Hello, Geneva. I'm Mayor Kevin Burns, and this is Business Beat. Today I'm joined by my good friend, Mike Orlando at the Fox River Distilling Company in beautiful Geneva, Illinois. Mike, thanks for having us.
Oh, thanks for coming.
This
really
is quite the exciting day.
It is. I'm glad you're here.
Well, we're here in the morning. This is a morning, and we're hanging out in a distillery. So I was saying to Mike earlier, I feel a little bit like Betty Ford or Kitty Dukakis, but in a good way.
It is a good thing.
This is awesome.
It is a good thing.
And you're relatively new to town.
We are we say relatively new, but we've been here actually 4 years.
I know, isn't that something?
We got here in 2013.
Right.
After we had already scoped out the area to build our distillery.
From the beautiful Quad Cities.
From the beautiful Quad Cities.
That's right.
But we lived in Geneva about 5-6 years ago before that.
Fantastic.
So we were here for about 18 months before I got transferred to the Jersey Shore.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Well, Jersey Shore has nothing on the Fox River.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So. This is great, and this is such a. Is it fair to say a niche market?
It is, but it's a growing market.
Indeed, it is.
Because right now we got into the industry early on, and by early I mean it's about 10 years since craft distilling has been around.
Okay.
Before that, it was really only the big guys down in Kentucky.
Right, exactly.
But craft distilling came on the scene about 10 years ago with a small group of distillers, and they were focused more on taste and quality.
Got it.
Rather than mass production. And so that's the whole thing of what we're trying to accomplish. We're trying to make sure that what we put in the bottle is actually much better for you than a mass-produced product.
So good things come in small packages.
Good things come in small packages.
That's what Fox River Distilling is all about.
All about. We are all about taste and quality here.
It's incredible.
And about local.
That's perfect.
We, as a local company, we think we need to act local.
Sure.
And so 90% of our suppliers come from a 25-mile radius
of this
distillery, right? Things like all of our bottles come from a company that's 2 miles away.
No kidding.
2 miles away. So they print with organic inks and follow sustainable practices, and so they think like we do, and we like to align ourselves with the folks that think the way we do.
So we should be toasting your sustainability as well.
Absolutely.
I like it. That's how I just worked that in. That's cool. We're going to have a nice tour.
Okay.
We're going to experience some of the product and how you make it.
Right.
You're going to brag to all those tuning in what's so special and unique about your company. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the products that you have. Some of the names are fantastic.
Yeah, early on we forged a partnership with the Geneva History Museum.
Wonderful place.
And so it was important to us to be tied into the community and playing on the history. As you know, James Clayton Harrington, the founder of the city of Geneva, was actually a distiller.
No, I know.
A general storekeeper.
That's why some of the streets are kind of curved.
Yeah. I imagine that's probably why.
I think you're probably right.
So we thought it fitting to name our first product, our founding product, Harrington Premium Vodka.
It's incredible.
After him. But all the other names, Geneva's Preservation Gin, Bennett Mill, all taken from historic names or places in the city of Geneva.
That's really cool. So shall we begin the tour?
Let's begin the tour.
Let's begin the tour, folks. Join us.
All right, so welcome to the worldwide headquarters of Fox River Distilling.
This is the global,
the global headquarters.
I love it.
We used to say all 3,000 square feet, but we've actually taken over the next space as well for storage right now.
Congratulations!
And we're about to get the other side over here, so we'll effectively double the size of our distillery.
Is that right?
But the big differences between a craft distillery and what most people see in either the large distilleries down in Kentucky or even craft brewers is it's the size of the operation.
Okay.
So when most people walk into a craft brewery, they see these huge tanks and they're floor to ceiling and and they're filled with liquid. But the alcohol is normally in the range of like 4 to 7%.
Okay.
By contrast, our operation is much smaller. And our tanks are really small, but they hold an alcohol that's up to 190 proof.
Good
so
Lord.
We actually make more alcohol in a given year than most craft breweries would.
And you're governed by how much you can make by our friends at the federal level.
Well,
or no?
No, it's mostly the state level.
It is the state
Under
level,
the
okay.
current state of Illinois law, we're only allowed to make 35,000 gallons a year.
You should ship all that to Springfield and have them solve the budget problem.
Well, and that is, that's part of our legislative effort right now with
Yeah.
the Illinois Craft Distillers Association. There's about 20 of us in the state now, and that number's growing a little bit, but you know, they've held us to about 35,000 gallons.
Got it.
And that's moved up from where it was.
Sure.
Early on it was 5,000 gallons, but now we're at 35,000 gallons. But the problem with that is we're paying state excise tax. That money is going to fund the state of Illinois.
Sure.
And so why would you want to limit our production? You would want us to make as much as we possibly
Particularly
can.
with the demand being there.
Exactly.
It's amazing.
Exactly.
So do some of these barrels then have like Governor Rauner's name on there?
Not quite. They
Not
do
quite.
have some names on there, but yeah, it's not Governor Rauner. But yeah, so with craft, you know, we're a smaller operation.
Okay.
But that's a good thing because, like I said before, we're all focused on taste and quality.
Got it.
And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to put the very best product in the bottle that we possibly can. You might pay a little bit more for
Sure,
it, but at least you're going to understand what you're drinking and why you're drinking it.
It's about
and
value.
how it was made. We think our job is to educate the public on what
Right.
they're consuming.
Wonderful.
And which is why we offer tours and tastings on the weekends. You can actually come out here and do a tour at noon, 2, and 4 p.m. and we also have a 5 p.m. tour on Fridays.
Is that right?
Yeah, so it's a good way to come in, get introduced to the product,
Sure.
understand the operation and the craft, and walk away with you know, a taste of the product and a pretty good feeling that you've worked with a local company.
And then why do you use the word craft?
Craft is
It sounds so
yeah, we go back and forth. You know, the
Special.
industry goes craft, or they talk about artisan. It's all about creating things in small batches.
Okay.
It's not the same product that everybody else is putting out.
Got it.
And so I don't want to put out a cheap, mass-produced vodka.
Sure.
What we want to do is we want to produce a great vodka that people will really like. You know, and people will really drink. And
So when they sample and they enjoy your vodka, and let's say they really enjoy your vodka, do they wake up the next morning using your name in vain, or?
No, no, absolutely not. In a mass-produced product, right? And that's a great question. But in a mass-produced product, there is a separation of alcohol that happens. But you know, in a mass-produced product, they have no way to accurately make those cuts. They're making 1 million gallons at a time.
Wow.
And you know, we'll get into that on the other side, but when you make things 1 million gallons at a time, a fair amount of the bad stuff actually gets through.
Sure.
So if you've ever had a hangover, a really bad headache or a hangover from a cheap alcohol, it's because by the time they figure out where they are in the run, maybe 100,000 gallons of the bad stuff has already
gotten
gone by.
through. Wow.
Right. So as a craft distiller, we make sure we have very accurate cuts.
Neat.
And we're not using huge continuous stills that make 1 million gallons at a time.
Right.
We do everything on a 100-gallon batch.
Is that right?
100-gallon
So a 100-gallon batch.
100-gallon batch. We can control the quality pretty well on 100,
Indeed you
in
can.
100 gallons.
Wow.
So it works out pretty well.
I like it.
But now, we're all about local, right? And,
Right, absolutely.
And so...
Because you live downtown Geneva.
We live in
You just got
downtown
his haircut
Geneva.
in downtown Geneva. Life is good.
So, and my eyes and my teeth
everything.
and everything else
You're
is
pretty
done
much
in-
just kind of
all about Geneva,
all about
right?
Geneva.
But 90% of our suppliers come from a 25-mile radius. So
Right.
things like our corn, for example, corn is the main ingredient in everything we do.
Okay.
Right? That comes from a local farmer. He's the only certified organic farmer in Kane County.
Is that right?
He grows it, he grinds it, and he delivers it to us.
Really?
On a weekly basis. So we don't have huge grain silos over here.
Oh, wow.
I don't need thousands of pounds of grain molding in a silo. I get a fresh ground product every single week. And the fresher the grind, the better the alcohol. Right? So that's our corn. So that's our corn. We also use rye. Rye is used in bourbon to give it that
Right.
spice note. Not something our farmer Ted grows, but when he found out we needed it, he got another farmer to grow it as a cover crop.
Is that right?
And now Ted's grinding that and delivering it to us as well.
Once a week.
Once a week. So, He'll be here today because he always
is that
delivers
right?
on Wednesdays.
Oh,
so he
good.
might be showing up any
That's
minute.
good.
The only thing we can't get locally is malted barley. And malted barley is really used to give whiskey that caramely sweetness. Right?
That smells like you're driving through I-43 in Wisconsin, doesn't it?
It does.
It does.
But where we get flavor from this, the malting process also releases a natural enzyme that helps convert starch into fermentable sugar.
Okay.
The fermentable sugar is, of course, what we're after because that's what we make the alcohol.
How are you, who are so wise in the ways of chemistry? What's your background, Mike?
I've been in food service for 32 years.
Well, there you go.
So I started out as a dishwasher at Our Lady of Angels Mother House, which is Mary and Joy Rehab Hospital.
Of course, I know exactly where it
Worked
is.
my way up through the kitchen. Worked as a chef in the Drake Hotel in Chicago.
Really?
Worked at a couple of different restaurants in Carroll Stream and Glendale Heights, and decided to go back to school and ended up looking for a summer job at a company called Prince Castle that manufactured food service equipment for McDonald's. And I've been in the food equipment industry ever since.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So this is your passion turned purpose in life.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah, this is a good way to kind of transition careers.
So what condition is your liver in?
Excellent. People think we drink all the time. We actually don't drink all the time. This is a manufacturing operation. And you are required to operate in a very safe and efficient manner. And so we're not drinking here all day every day.
Nor should you.
Every cop in Geneva knows my name and knows the truck, and so they know if they stop me and I smell like alcohol, it's because we've been working, not because I've been drinking.
Exactly.
So it's a good thing.
This is wonderful. Okay, we're having a barrel of fun, aren't we?
We are having a barrel of fun.
And I noticed that some of these barrels have signatures and phrases, and these are made for your clients who are in the Barrel Club.
Well, that's right. And these are our Barrel Club members. So the Barrel Club is a social group here at the distillery. And it's a group of people who really, really enjoy whiskey. And so our Barrel Club members, they sign up for a membership. From that, they put their name on a numbered barrel. The barrels are numbered and recorded for the government, so they put their name on a numbered barrel. We like to say that they are now responsible for the mental health and well-being of the barrel. And so we have our Barrel Club members come back to the distillery on a regular basis because we want them to have a relationship with it.
Okay, this is getting kind of creepy here.
Well, no, it's actually kind of cool.
Is it like talking to plants?
It is, but they come in and they kind of love it and caress it, encourage it to make great whiskey.
This is a family show.
Yeah, I know. We'll keep it clean. But they have to wait 2 years to taste what's coming out of their barrel. Right? And so during that time, we have Barrel Club member events. There's a whiskey dinner coming up. We do a number of different cocktail classes for them. We have some great events for the Barrel Club members. And then when it's time to pull that barrel and actually bottle the product.
It's got to be a huge celebration.
Right. We invite the Barrel Club member to come back to the distillery to help bottle from their barrel. Then they have the opportunity to get the first 6 bottles out of the barrel.
So this one here is date filled of 1/25/15.
Right. So this won't come of age until January of 2017.
And then you're going to invite Matt.
Matt will come back and he'll help us dump the barrel into the tank, mix the barrel, proof it, and bottle. And then the best part of this whole thing is this is his barrel. He signed it. So he gets to take the barrel home.
Turn it into a lamp or an end table.
You can do whatever you want with it. It's a great conversation piece. It's a great conversation piece. Cool. So it's kind of fun.
It is fun.
And it's a way to get a little bit more involved in the process.
Yeah, so it's a relationship with what you're producing.
Absolutely.
Wow.
You'll see in the tasting room, all of our Barrel Club members have their names up on the wall, so everybody knows who they are. So if you spot your dentist's name in there,
switch dentists.
He's one of our Barrel Club.
Or your
members,
undertaker.
So, yeah.
Wow, I love it. Plus, it's just cool looking.
It is cool. It's
very cool. And it's always so clean, right? I mean, cleanliness is important.
I am very big on cleanliness and sanitation. And guess what? So is the Kane County Health Department.
As they should be.
As they should be.
I mean, you're making a product that people are consuming.
Correct.
You should be.
Yeah. We're actually making a sanitizer. Alcohol is, of course, a sanitizer,
Indeed it is.
and so, you know, so it's a good thing, but we're going to be clean.
That's wonderful. Now we're going to head around here to the, what room?
We're going to mash on the other
We're going to
side.
mash, folks.
We're going to mash on the other side.
This is going to be so cool.
Mashing is the start of our process, and so if you want to follow me this way.
Let's go mash. This is going to be fun.
All right, so the grain comes to us in 50-pound bags.
Oh my.
But it's really only 50 pounds on the day they fill the bag. The moisture content can go up or down, and that'll affect the weight. So we can't really rely on the numbers on the bags. We have to weigh it out on a legal for trade scale. The scale gets calibrated every morning and then certified legal for trade.
That's certified by the state.
Certified by the state.
Is.
So we have to have a guy come in, you know, with his own set of weights and plunk it down. And
How
just
often
make
do
sure
they do that?
They do that once a year, but we calibrate every day.
So if you and I hopped on there,
that would not be a good thing. I'm not quite sure it's rated for that kind of weight, but
thanks for the compliment.
yeah. But we weigh out all of our grain at the start of our process. We want to make sure that our recipe is accurate all the time, and if the moisture content goes up or down too much, we actually have to adjust our water. And so
in terms of volume,
the amount of water and the amount of grain always remains constant.
Oh, okay.
And that's how we get that consistency.
Now you talk about water.
Right.
And I know you and I have had a conversation before. One of the reasons you chose Geneva was because of the quality of the water.
Because of the quality, right? And so we looked at a lot of other cities and towns when we were first planning this out.
This is really cool.
And one of the things that really struck us about Geneva is not that it's, you know, a great friendly town. It is, right? But the city of Geneva built a $24 million state-of-the-art reverse osmosis water treatment plant.
Yeah.
Basically, you guys purify the water for the entire town.
Absolutely.
So what we get here at the distillery is like 99.9% pure.
Wow.
Right? It is better than any bottled water you could actually get. I know, we lived in Geneva before that happened. We drank bottled water. But now, what we get out of the tap is better than anything that we could manufacture on our own.
Important lesson to learn.
It's huge for a lot of the businesses in this area because, as you know, the Geneva Business Park is full of food-related businesses.
Absolutely, and just the manufacturers want clean water for production purposes. And
absolutely. So the cool thing about our process is where most people have to adjust the water chemistry.
Right.
For our mashing, we basically take it right out of the tap. Saves us a tremendous amount of money.
I can imagine.
Right? And we don't put any chemicals in the water or anything else, but it saves us a tremendous amount of money. And then when we're completely finished, we have to do a final blending. And for final blending, all we do is we have a small little filter system to take out anything that may be in the line between the water filtration plant and us.
Okay.
And that just guarantees that what goes into the bottle is crystal clear. Right? And that gives all of our spirits a very, very smooth character. If we moved the distillery to any other town, the spirits would taste totally different.
Interesting.
So you got us for a while.
We got you. I like it.
All right. So once we have the grain weighed out, the next step in the process
you put them in the hot tubs.
No, the next step in the process is actually mashing, and we do that here.
This is like Uncle Fester's basement or something. Is it Uncle Fester?
It's a lot of Willy Wonka meets the Wizard of Oz. Is what's going on here. Because
now, that makes me Augustus Gloop.
I'm not going to comment.
Don't comment.
All right. So we're a small company, which means we're doing everything we can in the one piece of equipment we own. So meet Isabel. Isabel is a 100-gallon hybrid artisan pot still. The difference between a traditional still and a hybrid.
Why do you call her Isabel?
I'll get to that.
Okay,
I'll get to that.
This is
all right.
Interesting and interesting.
So Isabel's a hybrid, right? So the difference between a traditional still and a hybrid is basically a traditional still has a kettle that holds the liquid. You have a neck, what's called a line arm, and normally on a traditional still, connected to the line arm is a copper coil, or what they call the worm. And everybody's seen movies or pictures. There's a great show out called Moonshiners right now. Watch Moonshiners. All right, you see the scene where the alcohol drips out of the copper coil into a ball mason jar.
Well, I think of the TV show MASH.
Yes,
remember that?
Same thing.
Wow.
Now we're dating ourselves.
Now we
right?
are dating ourselves.
All right, but once the alcohol drips into the copper coil, out of the coil, it goes into the ball mason jar, and that is the finished distillate.
Okay.
Well, we don't have that copper coil. Instead, what we have are a series of columns. And the columns allow us to open and close the valves and open and close the plates to change not only the alcohol percentage, but we can affect the flavor profile as well.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So now, this is a silly question, so forgive me.
Okay.
Does it continue here, or does it stops down here?
Stops at the floor.
It stops. Okay.
Stops at the floor.
So there's no underground system as well.
No.
So this is it.
This is it.
Isabel in all her glory.
Isabel in all her glory, right? So we actually mash in the still right now, and we have some larger equipment coming, but we are mashing in the still and we distill in the same piece of equipment.
Wow.
So in order to mash, the start of our program is basically this. We'll take the grain that we've weighed out. We'll go ahead and we'll fill our kettle with 80 gallons of cold water.
Okay.
We'll bring that water up to a strike temperature of about 160 degrees, and then we start sifting in the grain very slowly.
So you're not just pouring it in?
No, we sift it in slowly, because if we pour it in all at once, it ends up like a big giant dough ball in the bottom of the still, and quite frankly, I don't fit through the little hole to go clean it out. That's what grandchildren are for.
Is that
right?
You heard it here first, folks. Keep the kids away.
And now you know why the still's named Isabel, because she fits quite nicely through the little. I only did it once for pictures. We weren't even operating, but I got in huge trouble with my daughter, and so we won't do that again. We won't do that again. I promise. All right. So once we get all the grain in there, there's an agitator, and that agitator will keep that grain in suspension as we're cooking it. Okay. Because that's what we're doing. We're cooking the grain. This is really no different than the way you make oatmeal at home.
So the 160 degrees cooks the grain.
Right.
As well.
We start at 160 when we add our grain, and then we'll go ahead and we'll bring that up. We'll keep bringing the temperature up until we get to about 200 degrees for corn. Because we really need to break that down. And now once we're satisfied with the way that everything's cooked, we'll go ahead and pump it from here into one of the 3 open top fermenters that you see behind us. So these open top fermenters allow us to dissipate the heat fairly rapidly, because now we need to get down to what's called pitching temperature.
Are you stirring as well?
We are not stirring. We actually pump over, and that cools it as we pump over. So pitching temperature is the point where we can go ahead and introduce our yeast. And so if you've ever baked bread and looked at the back of the package of like Red Star yeast, right? You know that it says on the back, use tepid water. Well, tepid water is 85 to 90 degrees. That's the point at which the yeast will bloom and grow. Any hotter than that, we run the risk of killing off the yeast. Any lower than about 70 degrees, and the yeast goes dormant and doesn't work for us.
So we've got the 50-pound bags. We qualify for weight.
Right.
We then mash.
We mash.
Now we're pitching.
Now we're going to go ahead and pitch and ferment. So
pitch and ferment.
Right. And so number 1 is the mash that we finished last night, and we're going to go ahead and pitch our yeast. So we've already hydrated our yeast, and we're going to ask you to go ahead and help us do this.
I used to pitch in high school.
There we go. So let me grab the yeast, and then we'll get going.
You got to stick with us, folks. We're about to pitch.
All right, so what we have in the bucket is basically our hydrated yeast.
Okay.
And so what we're going to do is we're going to ask you to handle our mash paddle there.
Well, I'm playing Quidditch.
Yeah. And we're going to take our yeast that we've already slurried. Now this is a very viable yeast. And we're going to go ahead and add this to the fermenter.
Check this out.
And this is called pitching the yeast. So we've added this to the fermenter. We're going to ask you just to go ahead and stir that up.
Do you want me to do like a figure 8 or a...
You stir it to where you think it's already done.
How do I know when it's finished?
You'll know because all the grain will be floating in the top.
Oh, is that right? So I'm literally bringing the grain to the top. This is awesome. You can see the grain now. Now, will I have my name on the bottles that these actually are poured into?
No, you won't actually. But all right, so you keep doing that. I'll be back tomorrow.
Okay, have a good day.
Thank you. See ya.
Oh, you can see it. Look at that. And the grain just rises naturally to the top. Wow.
All right, so I think you're good. It's all
That's
mixed
pretty
up.
good. And you don't want to overdo it.
You don't want to overdo it
Okay.
because the yeast is going to take over, and it's actually...
Now, can I lick that like I do chocolate chip cookie dough? Or?
You can if you want. It'll actually be sweet. Yeah, it's pretty sweet.
Yeah?
You want to taste
What's
it?
in there?
This is a combination of corn, rye, and malted barley.
There's no alcohol yet.
There's no alcohol
Well,
yet.
let's dig in.
So the byproduct of fermentation is going to be alcohol. So here's what we've done. We've mashed, we've hydrated the yeast.
Right.
Now this is going to take 5 to 7 days.
This will sit here.
This will sit
a week.
for 5 to 7 days to ferment out. So
Open air.
open air. So unlike beer, where beer is done under sanitary conditions, whiskey production is actually open top fermenters. Every time that you look at the fermenter, it's going to change a little bit.
Okay.
And over the course of 5 to 7 days, that whiskey is going to pick up additional wild yeasts. It's going to pick up, all the ambient flavors that are in the room. All of that contributes to the final product, to the flavor that we're actually going to get.
So here's maybe a strange question, but if you had your back doors open, that's going to change the flavor ultimately of the product. Correct or incorrect?
It will change the flavor of the product a little bit because our neighbor out the back door is Peacock Engineering, and when they're packaging cookies or fruit,
Yeah, exactly.
I get really hungry in here. But yeah, you can smell it all over the place.
Okay. Got it. So this is not a hermetically enclosed environment.
No.
You want the natural
We don't
environment.
want it. Yeah, we don't want it to be.
Wow.
All right.
Okay.
So
We've pitched.
So we've pitched
Well, I should say
our...
we've measured, we've mashed, we've pitched. I stirred, which is pitching.
Yeah, you're stirring the yeast
Stirring
in,
the yeast.
right?
The yeast or the grain rose to the top.
Yep.
We tasted it. Very sweet.
Very sweet.
And now we're going to actually distill.
Right, so after 5 to 7 days, what we have is called a distiller's beer. It's essentially a beer because it's a fermented grain and water mixture.
So there's still no alcohol in it.
No, it actually does have about 10% alcohol. So with the yeast strain we use for our bourbon especially, we get about 10% alcohol.
Wow.
And so now the distillation process is going to concentrate that into something we can really use. Okay. So on distilling day, we'll go ahead.
Drinking people.
Yeah, one of those beer guys.
That was good, I'm telling you.
So on distilling day, we'll pull from the fermenter, we'll pump it back into the still, right? Only this time we'll lock down the lid, and now we're going to take the contents of the still all the way up to boiling. So water boils at 212 degrees, but alcohol boils at 173. So starting at 173 degrees, I'm creating a vapor that's actually going to travel up the neck, across the arm, and down into whatever column we choose, depending upon what we're making that day.
Oh, okay.
So if we're making a gin, for example, our award-winning, twice now, we just got a silver medal, right? So if we're distilling gin, we'll actually open this valve. We'll run our vapor through this pipe here. It'll go into a receiver in the base of this column.
And you use the term vapor. It's akin to steam.
It's a steam, right? So the steam will actually come into the receiver, and then as that steam continues to build, it's going to pass up through this area here, which is called a gin basket. So that's where we load all the botanicals. So gin is made with botanicals. Starts the same way as vodka does, but gin utilizes botanicals.
And botanicals, for somebody who barely graduated high school.
So botanicals are common cooking and baking spices.
Okay, got it.
And so you can find those things down at the Spice House in Geneva. I just
This guy is so good at throwing out other local businesses' names, aren't they?
So when we're looking for things like juniper and coriander, green cardamom, cinnamon, star anise, all that kind of stuff can be found at the Spice House. So once or twice a year I walk in there and kind of clean them out of a few things.
kidding.
I don't think they were real happy with us to start with, but now they're a little happier.
It's a great relationship.
We buy.
And that brings the flavor.
That brings the flavor. So as the steam passes over the botanicals, it picks up all of those flavors. And so the really cool thing about this is different compounds come off the run at different times. The heaviest actually come off at the lower boiling point, so it's kind of counterintuitive. So the first thing that we smell back in here is the juniper. In fact, The whole place smells like a pine forest, right? I think the neighbors smell it too.
So what is your laundry bill?
Well, you know, my wife does a lot of laundry, that's for sure. As the run continues, we get more of the earthier tones, like the coriander and then the cardamom, and then you start to smell a little bit of cinnamon. And the last thing that we smell back in here is fresh lemon. Every time we make gin, my wife peels 6 pounds of fresh organic lemons.
Really?
And that's because that's our discernible difference. There's a standard of identity for every alcoholic product out there.
Okay.
The standard of identity for gin says it must contain juniper. So as long as I have the juniper, I can put anything else I want. So I can use old socks, dirty sneakers, squirrel pelts, Eye of Newt.
You heard it here first, folks. The Eye of Newt gin is delicious.
Yeah, especially around Halloween, I think it's fantastic.
Well, I always knew my mother was a witch.
You remember the last time you went to the liquor store, or a number of years ago, there were really only 6 bottles of gin on the shelf. Now, when you go into the liquor store, there's a whole aisle full of gin.
It's forgive me, but it's like the craft beer. It's
absolutely
just booming.
Right. So it's one of the only things the government lets us be creative with. So every distiller is trying something different.
Okay.
It's not about London dry style. In fact, ours is not a London dry style. Ours is kind of a new American style, and that is really where you bring some other flavor forward. In our case, it's the lemon, the little bit of citrus at the end.
That's what makes Fox River Distilling unique.
That is.
It's the lemon.
And it's also
Mrs. Orlando.
Right.
Slaves over.
Absolutely.
Wow.
And so it's kind of cool. That little discernible difference earned us a bronze medal in last year's San Francisco World Spirits Competition. It was 2015.
Incredible.
In 2016, we changed up the recipe just a little bit, and we got a silver medal. So now we've won 2 awards for that product.
Well, okay, let me ask this silly question. You've just shared with me and the world, because this is broadcast all over the world.
There you go.
Okay, seriously.
Yeah. All right. I'm believing you.
What your recipe is.
It's not, I didn't give you the whole recipe.
Okay,
There's about 10 different botanicals.
It's the socks, isn't it?
Right, it's the socks. There's about 10 different botanicals in there, and there's the normal cast of characters, and then you can add...
Always juniper.
Always juniper, but you can add anything else you want, and there are some normal things, the coriander, the cardamom, people do that, but then you vary it up a little bit. Because I don't want the same thing everybody else has, right? Ours is a little bit unique. Wow. So ours is a very easy drinking gin. And what we say is Geneva's Preservation Gin is the gin for people who aren't necessarily gin drinkers. If you're not hooked on a London dry style and you just want to start, looking at gins, this is a good one to start with.
Okay, how do I know if I truly enjoy the gin if I only drink like gin and tonics? So you drink the gin by itself to really appreciate it, and then you would even say, okay, go ahead and mix it if you like, but...
Yeah, I mean, you would get a better sense of the flavor by drinking it straight. Right? But the flavors will carry through in a gin and tonic.
Got it, okay.
Most people know what tonic tastes like.
Sure.
And so you hope that all the flavors carry through, but that's up to your individual palate.
Now, do you sell logoed brown wrappers so I can carry your gin around town?
No, it's a craft paper bag.
Oh, I see. There you go.
I'll show you one of those when we get up there. All right, so if we're not making gin, we bypass this column completely. The only thing we use this for is for making gin. For everything else, we'll open this valve. We'll direct the flow of the steam down this tube. It'll go into a receiver in the base of this column.
Stainless steel, only gin. Stainless steel and copper is?
Right, well, the gin will actually still pass through.
Oh, it will?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we open that up, but everything else goes through here. And so now the steam goes into the receiver down here, and as it builds, it's climbing up past these plates. This is what's called a fractioning column. In a fractioning column,
I had a fractioning column.
It hurt like hell.
Brutal,
didn't it?
brutal. I had to have
telling you.
I had to have a stiff drink.
All right, so in a fractioning column, we divide the alcohol into 3 parts, and those are called heads, hearts, and tails. The heads are all the high alcohols, the aldehydes and the acetones, all the nasty stuff you don't want to drink because it'll make you sick and give you a really bad headache.
Nail polish is acetone.
Absolutely, right? But we don't waste that kind of stuff. right? We actually hang on to it. We waste nothing around here. We actually hang on to it, and we use it for window cleaner or to polish the still. It's also, seriously, it's also a very effective nail polish remover, and you can take off adhesive labels with it. We know one distiller.
Fox River Distillery.
Yeah.
Take off your adhesive labels, folks.
We know one distiller who's running his pickup truck on it. I am just not that brave. So we'll use ours for solvent. So once the heads are out of the way, we're into the hearts. And the heart of the run is the really good stuff. As a craft distiller, that's all I want. We're going to take a very narrow cut and only use the hearts because that's the best of the best of what we can do.
Interesting.
And so once we're through with the hearts, we've collected as much as we can of that. We go right into the last phase, which is called tails. The tail end of the run is extremely low in alcohol. It's not suitable for drinking. But tails have a lot of flavor. So in whiskey production, we actually hang on to the tails and we toss them in the next batch.
Oh, really?
So it's kind of like sourdough starter. You get a very consistent flavor profile from run to run when you do that.
Interesting.
Now, we still have the grain in the water in the pot. Once we're completely done, we still have the grain in the water. We don't waste that either. We actually pump that into 55-gallon drums, and it goes out to Heritage Prairie Farms or Garfield Park Farms, where they actually feed the pigs and the chickens with it. So our waste product, we're not marinating the pigs from the inside out. There's no...
So the major issue really in Kane County are drunk pigs and chickens.
Drunk pigs and chickens.
Got it. Okay, that's why we don't have chickens in Geneva.
But they're always moist and tender, so it's a good thing.
So everything is used?
Everything is used.
Again, back to your sustainability.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely. So the way distillation works, the higher the proof, the less flavor and character. The lower the proof, the more flavor. So if you can start to think about it this way.
That seems almost counterintuitive as well.
It does, but we distill vodka to 190 proof. At 190, we're actually stripping out all the character of the base material. That's our organic corn. And so you're not going to taste corn in our vodka. You might get a little sweetness from the corn, but you're not going to taste corn because the standard of identity, the legal definition of vodka, is that it's odorless, colorless, and tasteless. Right? And at 190 proof,
that was written in my high school picture graduation.
Odorless, colorless.
It's amazing.
I may have seen your yearbook.
You probably did.
So yeah, it's odorless and colorless and tasteless. So that's the legal definition. So at 190, we've accomplished that. So now as you lower the proof a little bit, you allow flavor to come over in the run. It's not so high that it's going to block out. So we distill gin between 160 and 170 proof. That gives us just a little hint of flavor, and that's what we want. It's not supposed to be like drinking cherry Kool-Aid. It's just a little nice thing on the back of your throat.
Interesting.
Whiskey is distilled under 160 proof by law. And under 160, you get all the flavor of the grain. So you'll taste the corn, you'll get the spiciness of the rye, you'll get the sweetness and the caramel from the malted barley. So
there's a kick to that. It's
and that's why people drink whiskey. They drink whiskey for the flavor, right? It's all about how it hits your palate, not anybody else's. And it's why we encourage people to go and do tastings, because it's not going to be for everybody. The whiskey you like may not be the whiskey you like. It's all about how the flavor hits your palate. So you got to try a lot of them. Right? And so you can come here to a craft distillery, and obviously all craft distilleries have tasting rooms. But if you can't get to a craft distillery, you can go to a place like Safeway or Liquor and Wine or Binny's or any of the other surrounding liquor stores. And on the weekends, they normally have all those girls there who will offer you a taste. It's like running the gauntlet some days, you know, because you walk in the store and try my this and try my that. If they're wearing a black shirt like this, treat them nice. But you can get a lot of different samples that way. What most people don't realize is, you know, those girls are there on the weekends, but what about during the week? You want to try something during the week? Guess what? If you go down to Safeway and you're interested in product, they normally have a tasting cabinet or a supply of open product, and they're more than happy to offer you a sample of anything they have.
Wow.
They don't publicize it for obvious reasons.
For obvious reasons, exactly.
Oops, I shouldn't have said that. Okay, but they want you to find the product you're happy with. That means you're going to buy a bottle, hopefully.
But you can go to other stores, if you will, and they always, you know, whether it be a cheese store, sample that. Do you like it?
Absolutely.
That makes sense, though, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Why would I want to buy something blind and hope I like
Right.
it? Wow.
We want people to be happy with their purchases.
Exactly. Particularly when your name's on the label.
That's right.
It's really important. Why isn't your face on the label?
Yeah, we don't want to turn people off. All right. So, once the alcohol reaches the top of the column, it crosses over here to what's called a product condenser. The product condenser is where that hot steam meets a bunch of tubes full of cold water. So as the steam hits the tubes, it rapidly falls back into a liquid state. So everything coming off the still at this point is a clear liquid. Whether it's a vodka, a gin, or a whiskey, it all comes out clear.
So the naked eye, I couldn't tell.
You wouldn't be able to tell what's what, right?
Okay.
We're always sampling coming off the still, so we know what the flavor profile is.
Okay.
But we catch it in the jars back here. We have to weigh it, measure it, and record it for the government. And then if it's a vodka or a gin, it's dumped into one of the two tall blending tanks back over here. So VB is vodka blending, GB is gin blending.
Oh, very straightforward.
Yeah, kind of original, huh?
I was going to say, very creative.
Right? We try not to mix those up. We mixed them up once, which is why all the tanks are labeled now.
Really?
Remember I said we waste nothing?
Yeah.
Yeah, it means we got to drink our mistakes.
Now, why is there a different style to the...
The gin tank is actually jacketed, so we can actually cool it down.
Okay.
With gin, remember, we're passing it over botanicals.
Right.
So if there's any particulate in the product, we can actually filter that out. And it's easier to filter when it's cooler.
Okay.
All right, so vodka and gin go in here. If it's a whiskey, though, the whiskey goes into the barrel. And the barrel is where the whiskey picks up its color. The insides of the barrels are all charred.
Otherwise, it's clear.
Otherwise, it's clear.
I didn't know that. So
whiskey comes out
of here clear as water.
Right.
It picks its color up from the wood in the barrel.
Right, the wood in the barrel. So all these barrels are charred on the inside. And so you can char a barrel anywhere from, and it goes by levels, so you can go from a 0 all the way to a 5. A 0 is almost raw wood or lightly toasted, what they would use for like a Chardonnay barrel.
Okay.
Versus a number 5 that kind of looks like the log that's been on your campfire for a few days. It's black and crackly, kind of alligator type.
Do the barrels come to you
pre-charred.
Pre-charred, so you're not here with a blowtorch.
As you can imagine, there are no open flames allowed in the distillery.
Smart move.
Yeah. So, you know, from that wood, we'll get a great color. We'll get a little hint of the smoke.
Okay.
But this is all northern white oak. And northern white oak is used in barrel production for a couple of reasons. One, holds liquids very, very well. And two, it's not toxic. There are other woods that hold liquids, right? Very well, but they're toxic and you can't use them.
So there are no plastic barrels.
There are no plastic barrels, right? And under federal law, when you make a bourbon, bourbon has to be held to a standard of identity. Bourbon's actually protected under the federal law.
I'm sure it is.
Right? And bourbon...
Courtesy of our Kentuckians?
No, actually, courtesy of our founding fathers.
Well, there you go.
Bourbon is the only product that was actually created in the U.S. Everything else was invented someplace else and brought to America, but bourbon was created in the U.S. by our founding fathers. And so it's a legal product of the United States of America. So bourbon is to America what Irish whiskey is to Ireland, what Scotch is to Scotland, and what tequila is to Mexico. They're legal products of those countries.
I didn't know that.
And so I can make a product like Scotch. Legally, I can't call it Scotch. We call ours Old Malt House. And that's our single malt whiskey.
You can't even use the name.
We can't use the name Scotch.
Interesting.
Right, because it's made in the U.S.
I had no clue.
And bourbon can be made anywhere in the U.S., not just Kentucky. The folks in Kentucky would like you to believe that it can only be made in Kentucky.
I think most people believe that.
Right? But bourbon is a legal product of the U.S., and now there are 940 operating craft distilleries across the U.S., and most of us are making bourbon.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's a kind of it's a cool thing.
Yeah.
You know, there is a barrel shortage going on right now, unfortunately, right? And there's a barrel shortage, you know, because, well, a couple of things: 940 new craft distillers. Sure. Not to mention all the craft brewers who want barrels to barrel age their product. Right. And it's not that the barrel companies can't make more barrels; they can make barrels. There's no wood. 20 years ago, nobody could have predicted the rise in craft brewing and distilling. They didn't know that they would need more northern white oak barrels.
So again, to the sustainability, there's got to be a reforestation effort going on.
Absolutely,
as well.
Huge one right now. Large companies like Jim Beam, Brown-Forman, Jack Daniel, they solved this problem years ago by buying up complete forests.
Okay.
Right? They established their own forestry programs, their own cooperages, and now they've assured themselves of barrels for years to come. The rest of us all work with a couple of companies, and you know, we're allocated barrels now on a quarterly basis.
Really?
Yeah. So we have to lay in our orders. We've already placed orders all the way through 2018 to guarantee that we have barrels coming in.
So if I'm a member of your barrel club, I've enjoyed the product, can I donate my barrel back to you to reuse, or you don't reuse it?
Well, here's the thing. Under the standard of identity, bourbon has to be made out of a mash of at least 51% corn, must be distilled under 160 proof, and has to be aged in a brand new charred oak barrel every single time. You cannot reuse the barrel and call it bourbon. You can use the barrel for something else. I made a table out of that one over there, right?
Yes, you did.
But you can't ever put a bourbon in it again. So that's another reason why there's a big shortage. They're all one-time uses. Now we find ways to reuse our barrels, because remember I said we waste nothing.
Of course.
So we started aging in a couple of different sizes. In the 5-gallon barrels, these little ones, we actually give those to the bars and the restaurants that are our best customers.
Oh, you do?
So
there's 5 gallons in here?
Yeah, that's a 5-gallon barrel. So guys like Vinny over at Niche will actually do barrel-aged cocktails. He does a barrel-aged Manhattan, which is fabulous, right? But what he does is he mixes up a couple of gallons ahead of time, pours it back into a used bourbon barrel, and lets it sit for a while. That'll give it some extra flavor. Right, and then when you order the drink, he dispenses it from the barrel and adds those nice deep dark cherries to it. Yeah, 2 of those and a niche pretzel. I'm a really happy guy.
Life is good.
Mike over at Stockholm actually barrel ages his beers in our used bourbon barrels. So we've got a great partnership with Stockholm.
That's a unique flavor, then, isn't it?
It's a very unique flavor. He did a Bach beer in the winter, and it was fabulous, and my understanding is it's sold like that. I think I got 1 glass.
Fantastic.
So it's pretty good. So Mike's constantly changing it up and using some of our used bourbon barrels for that.
Interesting.
He's moved into the 10-gallon barrels now. It's so popular, he's got to have bigger sizes, and we keep feeding him barrels. So it's kind of a cool thing. But other places like Barrel and Rye and Burger Locale and every place else, they'll put that barrel, Nobel House, they put the barrel on the back bar, and that lets you know that they serve our product, and also that they have fabulous taste in spirits producers.
Wonderful.
So it's kind of a cool thing. We have a lot of support from the bars and the restaurants in Geneva, St. Charles, Batavia, all over the place.
Fantastic.
And now we're in places like Binny's and Safeway, and Whole Foods, and
fantastic.
We're all over. So it's kind of a cool thing.
I like it.
Yeah.
Now we're going to check out. Is it the tasting room?
The tasting room happens. It's a little
law,
bit.
Isn't there?
It's a little bit early. It's a little
Yes,
bit
it
early,
is.
but you're a special guest.
I just want to see it.
So we'll open the tasting room for you today.
This is part of the tour that you offer anyway.
Part of the tour.
So this is kind of a condensed, no pun intended, version.
Condensed.
It's a distilled version of the tour. So,
of course it is.
Of course it is. Okay. Continue this way, folks.
All right, let's go to the tasting room.
Let's do it. Mike, thanks again for the wonderful distilled tour.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it.
Thanks
Please share with everybody how to get a hold of you, your telephone number, your website, where you're located. So the throngs of quality drinkers keep coming to your door.
All right, so we are located in the Geneva Business Park and right next to the Northern Illinois Food Bank. And if you don't know where that is, shame on you. But the address is 204 Dearborn Court. We're Unit 110, right in the middle of the building. It's pretty easy to find. You'll see the windows out front in our retail space. And we operate free tours and tastings every weekend. So on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, you can come down for a tour at noon, 2, and 4 p.m. And there's also a 5 p.m. tour on Fridays.
Perfect.
You can come also to our First Friday event, which is the first Friday of every month. And that is the only night we're open late, mostly because I'm old. 8 o'clock is when we cut off, but starting at 5:30, it's food and music and free tours and tastings, but it's an open house format and it's a lot of fun.
Wonderful.
You can reach us at on our website, www.foxriverdistilling.com. You can connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, most of the social media sites, or give us a call at 630-402-0027.
Wonderful. That's Mike Orlando, ladies and gentlemen, from Fox River Distilling Company. And you're not old, you're perfectly aged.
There you go. Age
Thank
to
you again.
perfection. All right.
Thank you
so much for coming.
Thanks for tuning in, folks.